Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from MonoCFC and this is a match review for Chelsea vs Brighton in the Premier League Summer Series. This is my match review series on the channel where I'll be reviewing every match of this season, so without further ado, this is the good, the bad and the ugly. Welcome to GBU. Today we'll be looking at our previous game, a victorious 4-3 barn burner against Brighton and Hove Albion in our second game of pre-season. What a great game that was, eh? Two very good teams battling it out at a ridiculously high tempo for a pre-season game, and Chelsea gaining 3 points in the Premier League Summer Series. Lots of goals, lots to digest, so let's get stuck into this. As a reminder, I'll quickly go through how this works. I'll be taking 6 or more, depending on circumstance, things from the game and giving them a grading of good, bad or ugly in these 3 designated boxes. For this game in particular, we have a lot of good points and a few glaring bad points which I'll get onto, so despite the good result, don't expect me to be pulling any punches here. So we'll start from left to right and then go back to left so we can end on a positive note as usual. The first thing I want to put in the good box is the man that I have been going on and on about in recent times, our brand new star striker and player of the match in this one, Nico Jackson. I love this guy already, and if he hadn't convinced you before this game, he most certainly has done now. He came on in the second half and completely stole the show, getting 2 assists and bagging a great goal. He now has 4 goals/assists in less than 90 minutes of game time. His conversion rate is insane, and long may it continue. It is so refreshing for us to finally have pure goal scorers in the team like Jackson and Nkunku, who despite having a quiet game also scored to make it 2-2. Jackson looks, as I predicted, perfectly capable of leading the line for this Chelsea team. We play so much better with him on the pitch because his hold-up play is excellent, his link-up with the wingers either side of him and his centre-mids is brilliant, and his finishing, as we saw, is fantastic. He smashed the ball past the keeper after a quite exquisite pass from Marc Cucurella in that inverted area, showing us what he's truly capable of. I was slightly disappointed that we didn't get to see Jackson and Nkunku play together, but instead he formed a neat little partnership with the next player to go into the good box, Mykhailo Mudryk. All I can say is wow. Misha came onto the pitch with a point to prove, and boy did he prove it. Scoring his first goal for the club, Mudryk combined excellently with the aforementioned Jackson with 2 neat 1-2s including a chip over a defender, before absolutely blasting a volley into the bottom left corner, leaving the keeper with no chance. And you could see from his celebration and his teammates celebrating with him that his goal, despite only being in a pre-season game, meant so much to him. You can tell that he really wants to make it here, and that goal provided him with confidence. As for the rest of the game, he looked deadly anytime he was given the ball, and you could tell that the defenders were scared every time he had the ball at his feet. His pace is absolutely ludicrous, and that run he did to blaze past his marker and then collect the ball at the byline was astonishing. Once he sharpens up his crossing, he is going to be a nightmare for every right back in the league. Let's move into the bad box for a moment and touch on some less than ideal things, but before we do, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 15k, and only 5% of my viewers are subscribed, so if you want to join that exclusive group and help us achieve that goal, hit that subscribe button and join the masses. There'll be a few things in this box this time, and to start, I'm going to be putting in Kepa Arrizabalaga. I don't think he had the worst game in the world, but each and every time we see this guy play, I think to myself, we can do so much better than this guy. His distribution, which is supposed to be his strongest asset, was non-existent in this game, and he's conceding goals that other top keepers in the league just wouldn't concede. The penalty is unsavable and he dives the right way, so absolutely nothing wrong with that, but the other 2 are super suspect. I want to specifically point out the Undav goal because it highlights an issue that Kepa has, and that's his general lack of action. Other keepers in that situation come out, make themselves big, do something, anything to try and save the shot. Kepa just stands there rooted to the spot for the entire move. I don't expect him to save it from where he is because that would take insane reaction speed, but he needs to do more in that situation than just stand there and hope it hits him. For the Danny Welbeck goal, despite it being a result of poor defending, I still think that his positioning for this goal is just awful. The ball comes across the box and he's still at his post by the time the ball hits the net. Again, I'm not asking him to save it, I'm just asking for him to try harder, because other keepers can and will do that, and it raises the probability of the shot being saved. I really think that the higher ups need to start assessing that goalkeeping spot and look to other options. Even our youth goalkeepers have looked better so far in this US tour. Next up, I'm gonna be putting in our defence as a collective unit. Some of our defenders had good games and I'll get onto them later, but as a whole we were poor. Conceding 3 goals, 2 of which were against 10 men, is simply not acceptable. I think Levi Colwill ruined a great senior debut by conceding that penalty with an unnecessary and tired looking challenge, which was unfortunate after he had an excellent game overall, I thought. We just looked completely lost at times, and players weren't picking up their markers, weren't tracking runs, and were allowing Brighton's attackers to play around them with relative ease. I hope this is just down to the players being unfamiliar with each other and the defence rotating a lot, and not a large scale issue, and hopefully this is rectified before the season starts and we can get all of these mistakes out now and not during the season. Let's move on to the ugly box before we get back to the positives. The first thing I'm going to address is Raheem Sterling. I was lenient in the first game because it was the first game, but Sterling was just simply awful in this game. He's frustrating because he does the hard bit right and gets into good positions, but then he just gives the ball away constantly, misplacing passes and crosses and generally just looking lost in comparison to all the other attackers, including attackers that have literally only just joined the club. He's supposed to be our second most experienced player in the side, and he really needs to step up in the next game, or I fear that he'll lose his place in the team. I had so many people telling me that I was wrong and I was stupid for putting Mudryk in ahead of Raz in my pre-season lineups, and I hope that you guys are starting to realise that that slow, steady decline that I told you Sterling was having is continuing, and he seriously needs to buck this trend, or I'm going to be proved right. The second thing in the ugly box is not going to be for any of our players, it's going to be for Van Hecke, because the challenge he put in on Cesare Casadei was absolutely awful. I was flabbergasted that it wasn't a straight red. He had zero intention of getting the ball, he was reckless, and he could have seriously injured our young Italian as he sent him careening over the touchline. The ref did make the right decision on sending him off. A lot of referees would have thought, oh well, it's only a pre-season game, and let him get away with that with no yellow, so kudos to the referee for doing the right thing, even if it did ruin Brighton's chances to win this game. I hope that Casadei didn't get too bad of a knock and he'll be able to continue his great form in the midfield. Moving back into the good box, the next thing I want to talk about coincidentally is our midfield. I think all of our young midfielders, Gallagher, Carney Chukwuemeka and more specifically Andre Santos, had genuinely great games. Gallagher was much improved in this one and popped up with another goal, which is always good. He's getting back into those positions to score like he was doing at West Brom and more recently Crystal Palace, and as ever, bringing unbridled energy into our midfield. Not only that, but he was pretty decent defensively too, even throwing his body on the line to stop what would have been a certain goal in the second half from Danny Welbeck. Carney Chukwuemeka was popping up in dangerous areas once again and combining well not only with the forwards but seriously well with Andre Santos next to him, passing their way out of the press and dragging the team up the field. He and Gallagher were interchanging in that deeper role alongside Santos, but we saw how much better it was when Carney was playing there and not Connor. Carney has all the tools to play in the deeper role, and he shined there when he was able to. Now onto Andre Santos. This kid doesn't play like a kid at all. He bossed the midfield with direct, progressive passing up the pitch, defended well, and won the ball back for the team when able. We unfortunately didn't get to see him play alongside Enzo as he was substituted for him, but I think those two are going to be playing together next season, alongside Caicedo if we get him through the door. Finally, the last thing going into the good box is our starting fullbacks. Both Ben Chilwell and Malo Gusto were excellent in this, I feel, for very different reasons. Let's start with Chilwell, who was electric in terms of his attacking play, showing his great energy and pace at times, which is something we don't usually associate him with, bombing up the field and creating chances, and even having an interview midway through the game. Jokes aside, he did exactly what the manager asked of him, and I think he's slowly getting back to his best after a less than inspiring performance against Wrexham. As for Malo Gusto, Wow. We were told that Malo Gusto's defending was his weak point, but he proved in this game that that just isn't the case. He put a new prisoner into the Malo Gusto penitentiary, and his name is Kaoru Mitoma. He absolutely pocketed him pretty much all game and was immense in defence all round. You could say that our defence went seriously downhill after he came off, and most of the good attacking play Brighton did was down his right hand side after he departed, with Joao Pedro in particular having fun down that wing. He really does look like he's going to rival James for the starting spot, which is great, because iron sharpens iron, and healthy competition is what breeds champions. Finally, the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight a few of the answers to the question of the day from the previous video, so for this one I'll be highlighting these responses. Thanks for the support, guys. Now for this video's question of the day, what do you want to see in the next game against Newcastle United? But that was just another episode of GBU. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this match in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues!